So today we're diving into one of the most important figures in the entire history of Westeros. And look, you never truly meet him in Game of Thrones, but everything that happens in the show happens because of him. So today we're telling the story of the Mad King. It's your boy Stevie Hayes. This is the Loreverse, and let's dive into this. Now, the first question that a lot of people ask is, who the heck is the Mad King? The Mad King is Aerys II Targaryen, and he's the final Targaryen ruler before Robert's rebellion. He was the father of Rhaegar, Viserys, and Daenerys Targaryen. He sat the Iron Throne for nearly 20 years, and by the end of his reign, he had lost his mind. But here's the key to this, guys. He wasn't always mad, and that's what makes his story tragic, because it wasn't just a coin flip, it was a slow motion car crash of a life. So let's talk about Aerys before the madness, because he wasn't always mad. So when Aerys first became king, he was charismatic, he was charming, very ambitious man, and he was very eager to restore Targaryen greatness. And he was the new hope for a dynasty that had been stagnating since the dance of the dragons. He was also close friends with Tywin Lannister, who served as the hand of the king for years. And Tywin essentially ran the realm. And the realm prospered, but prosperity bred jealousy, and Aerys grew paranoid of Tywin's competence. He felt overshadowed by Tywin's shadow. He famously insulted Tywin at every turn, even refusing to wed Cersei to Rhaegar because he didn't want his hand to become his equal. And paranoia is the seed of madness, and that seed was planted in the gardens of the Red Keep. Now, the true brink came during the Defiance of Duskendale. Aerys was captured and imprisoned for 6 months. He was isolated, humiliated, and powerless. He was eventually rescued by Barristan Selmy in a legendary solo mission, but he was never the same. After Duskendale, Aerys descended into extreme paranoia. He stopped cutting his nails. They became long, yellow talons. He stopped bathing and refused to allow blades near his skin, fearing assassination. And his skin was covered in scabs and cuts from the Iron Throne itself. And he burned people alive for minor offenses as well, finding a twisted sexual arousal in the flames. And he became obsessed with wildfire, which is the substance created by the Alchemist Guild. Now, Aerys' obsession with wildfire was not symbolic. It was literal. He ordered catches of wildfire hidden beneath King's Landing and under the great sept of Baelor, the Dragon Pit, and even the Red Keep. And his plan was that if he could not rule the city, he would burn it. Men, women, children, everybody. He believed that once the city burned, he would be transformed into a dragon, rising from the ashes like a god. And this is why Jaime Lannister killed him. Jaime didn't stab a king for ambition. He stabbed him to stop genocide. He watched the king's pyromancer, Rosard, getting ready to light the fuse. And the Mad King's final command was burn them all. And that phrase echoes through the series like a curse. Now, let's talk about Robert's rebellion here, because the Mad King's madness directly caused Robert's rebellion. When Lyanna Stark disappeared from Rhaegar, her brother Brandon Stark rode to King's Landing demanding justice, and Aerys responded by arresting him. And when he executed Rickard Stark in a horrific trial by combat where fire was the champion, Rickard was cooked alive in his armor while Brandon strangled himself trying to reach a sword to save his father. Then Aerys demanded the heads of Robert Baratheon and Eddard Stark. That was it, though. The Arryns, the Starks, and the Baratheons rose in rebellion, and the Targaryen dynasty fell, and the events of Game of Thrones were set in motion, which we see in season 1. And the Mad King is not just backstory, he is the thematic DNA, because his madness forces us to ask, was he actually insane, or did power and trauma break him? And that question mirrors Daenerys, because throughout Game of Thrones, characters constantly warn Daenerys, you have your father's blood, the coin flip line, the Targaryen madness myth. Her arc forces us to confront the legacy of Aerys. And when she burns King's Landing in the finale, it feels like history repeating itself, but there's deeper tragedy. Daenerys spent her entire life trying not to be him, and in the end, she echoes him. And that is the narrative shadow that Aerys cast over the entire series. So the real question is, was he truly mad? And in the books, there are hints of possible explanations. The main thing is the Targaryen inbreeding, right? That's the genetic toll of generations of incest. We also got the trauma from Duskendale, which caused like severe PTSD that was never treated. Also, the possible prophetic paranoia. He was told by a woods witch that the prince that was promised would come from his line, and also the fear of rebellion. He knew his own son Rhaegar was plotting to depose him at the tourney of Harrenhal. And some fans even theorize he had dragon dreams that that his burn them all obsession might connect to the White Walkers. And we see in House of the Dragon that Aegon's prophecy about the long night was actually passed down. And if that knowledge was fragmented over generations, the question is, did Aerys hear whispers of apocalypse and misinterpret them? Did he think he needed to burn the city to stop the dead? Madness or a misunderstood prophecy? And that ambiguity is powerful. Now, Jaime Lannister is the silent hero because the Mad King's death also defines Jaime. Jaime saves 500,000 people, but is branded Kingslayer. He breaks his oath to protect the realm, and the realm hates him for it. The moral complexity is central to the show's identity. Without the Mad King, Jaime is not Jaime. He is a man who sacrifices honor to save people who would never thank him. And the Mad King also represents the final decay of Targaryen rule, because by his time, there were no dragons, no unity, no mystique, just fear. His reign shows how a dynasty that once conquered the world with fire and blood can rot from within until it's just a crazy man in the chair. And also, just to give a take here, right? The Mad King is important because he represents the danger of unchecked power, the fragility of legacy, the trauma of inheritance, the thin line between prophecy and paranoia, and lastly, the cost of ruling through fear. He is not just a villain, he is a warning to Daenerys, to Jon Snow, and to anyone who believes destiny justifies destruction. So in the world of Game of Thrones, the tragedy of Aerys the second has moved even from the history books to the stage in a massive way with the announcement of the Broadway play The Iron Throne. And this isn't just a retelling, it's a direct prequel set during the legendary Tory of Harrenhal, the single most pivotal event in Westerosi history. And James Hibberd and George R.R. Martin have confirmed that this production will finally show us the unmasked versions of the icons we only heard about in the show. So we are going to see a younger, already unraveling Mad King Aerys on the throne, a dashing Rhaegar Targaryen, and a fierce Lyanna Stark in the flesh. And it's set to bridge the gap between the glory of the Targaryen dynasty and its bloody collapse, like revealing the true sequence of events behind Rhaegar crowning Lyanna the Queen of Love and Beauty, the spark that lit the fire of Robert's rebellion. And for like someone like me, this is the missing ink that confirms whether the Mad King spiral was purely madness or if he was reacting to secret political maneuvers of his own son. So the tragedy of Aerys is that he might have once been a good king, but fear consumed him. And when a king rules through fear, the realm burns. Game of Thrones begins with the consequences of his reign, and it ends with his daughter repeating his mistake. Look, history in Westeros does not forget. It always echoes. Hope you guys enjoyed this video here at the Loreverse. Please like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell, and peace out.